Questions for reflection. By the time Paul reaches the end of his second letter to the Corinthians, the believers of Corinth had repented for their errant behavior and poor treatment of the apostle. Now he's encouraging them to be generous in their way of life and share their possessions. Our relationship to this world and the goods of this world should mirror that of God's Son whom we follow. Jesus was born in a manger. As an adult, he had no place to lay his head. He was raised in a simple home by a woman whose heart recognized true wealth. Remember the words that the angel spoke to Mary when she asked how it could be that she would bear the Messiah? Nothing is impossible with God. That's Luke 1:37. Mary understood that when you have the Lord, you have it all. She lived in the economy of heavenly scale, I call it. And if we choose to do so, we can live there too. There's an invitation to evangelical simplicity in God's loving plan for each one of us. To those who voluntarily embrace it, evangelical simplicity also becomes an invitation to love and a school of sanctity. All relationships with persons as well with the goods of the earth can be changed by its embrace. How do we view the goods of this earth? Are we generous? The theme of generosity carries through in the portion of Psalm 146 appointed for our response at today's Holy Mass. We're created in the image of God and called to reflect Him through our own daily lives. As the psalmist praises God, he points us to His generosity. Quote, He keeps faith forever, gives justice to the oppressed, gives food to the hungry. Yahweh sets prisoners free. Yahweh gives sight to the blind, lifts up those who are bowed down. Yahweh protects the stranger. He sustains the orphan and the widow, end quote. How do we treat the poor? The gospel passage at today's Mass shakes us to the bones. It should. It's a call to complete transformation, beginning right now and right where we are. It's a call to become saints in the stuff of the real world. It's right there where our transformation takes place. It becomes the very real material which is used to recreate us more fully into the image revealed perfectly in the sacred humanity of Jesus. In its dogmatic constitution on the Church, Lumen Gentium, Light to the Nations, the Second Vatican Council affirmed the teaching of Jesus Christ, the clear teaching and witness of the early Church, and the consistent teaching of the Church, the councils throughout the ages, that holiness of life is not an option for any member of the Church. We're all called to Christian perfection, and I quote, all the faithful, whatever their condition or state, are called by the Lord, each in his own way, to that perfect holiness whereby the Father himself is perfect. And that's from paragraph 11 of Lumen Gentium. The Catechism of the Catholic Church reminds us, and I quote, all Christians in any state or walk of life are called to the fullness of Christian life and to the perfection of charity. All are called to holiness. Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. And that's paragraph 2013 of the Catechism. Christians are saved from sin, death, and separation from God through Jesus Christ. And we are called for holy living. We're to live differently beginning right now because we live our lives now in Jesus Christ. We're to love differently because we're capacitated by grace to love in Jesus Christ and with His love. And all of this is made possible as we cooperate with grace. The character of Christ is being formed in us as we cooperate with grace. As I age, the words from today's gospel become ever more sobering. Jesus said to his disciples, you've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your heavenly Father. For He makes His sun rise on the bad and the good and causes rain to fall on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what recompense will you have? Do not the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brothers only, what's unusual about that? Do not the pagans do the same? So be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect. How can we be perfect? This admonition from Jesus is repeated in other gospel accounts and developed in the New Testament epistles. Our question should not be, is it possible? Rather, it should be, how is it possible? How do we respond? Perhaps our problem with both understanding and responding is that we confuse the meaning of the word perfect. Filtering this word through our linguistic limitations, we may come up with a false translation and as a result, not even attempt to respond to the admonition. However, Jesus has saved us from sin and death and saved us for a new way of living. We can tend to focus on what we're saved from and forget what we're saved for. We do not yet comprehend who we are to become in Him. In Greek, the word often translated perfect is teleos. It refers to something being completed, brought to its full purpose, potential, and intended end and vocation. For example, in the world of objects, a hammer is teleos, or perfect, when it's hammering a nail. In the world of subjects, things are teleos, or perfect, when they're fulfilling their nature. In our Western minds, we can limit this word perfect and fail to grasp its promise and potential. We think of it mathematically rather than relationally. We fail to understand it is a work in process. We are called to become saints, to be perfected in charity, to grow in holiness. Not only are we called to that, it is now made possible through Jesus Christ.